welcome back from the summer break. So today we're talking about process attachments and what you can capture in Skore. So today we're talking about the process attachments. Just a little context to kick things off. Anyone who's used Skore will know that we use the processes, the boxes and lines, there's activities, there's inputs and outputs, as the framework to hang everything else on. Yeah, so that's kind of the everything else bit. That's what we're talking about. What can we attach? What information can we enrich? And also maybe even touch on a bit on the why that's useful. So what I've decided to do is to break it down into the different kind of life cycles of a process, high level life cycles of a process. So what sort of information do we want to look at when we're mapping, creating the processes? What's then useful for analysis? Hopefully you will deploy your processes to people, and even if it's just one person, hopefully a lot more. So what would you be looking at to put against a process at that point in its life cycle? And then at the end, we'll look at a couple of different features I couldn't neatly plug into one of these buckets, or maybe just a bit of extra show and tell, really, and some questions around that. So in terms of mapping, really went back to basics on this, in terms of what's the purpose, what are we trying to achieve? And I've suggested here to accurately capture and agree a process. So what could we include beyond the boxes and lines? Typically, workshop participants workshop participant comments, things like that, extra information to enrich the activity, an example template document. This is not, now I know we're talking about attachments and such, but I'm really looking at is this the extra information. My process here, I haven't put an actual process in here, but you can get the idea. What's really common is for people to put comments against processes and say we need to check something. So what we have is this: you've got to decide, and it might not be obvious at first, is where you put that note, where you put that information. So for open questions or things you need to check, so you can kind of put information like that just directly on the canvas. You don't have to put it as an attachment to the process as such. But the most simple version of putting an attachment, extra information, is if I click on the attachment icon here, click attachment, it's text. So you've got a little pop-up here that comes on and say, what extra information do we have here? Now, let's think of an example. You might say, well, we need to apply a discount to the order. That might be the activity. So against the attachment, what you might start to put in here, is you're going to start to add your note against the information. Now, the benefit of adding it against an attachment is it keeps your activity text nice and short. So the last thing we want to do is to put all the information that you might need against the activity text, because that will get longer, harder to read. Using the attachment in a workshop while you're mapping is a really good way of just putting that information down there. Now, you notice I've put the open question I need to go and check with Adam outside of the kind of factual information inside. That's not a bad demarcation. So when I'm looking at the process, I can see this. It's quite visual, and I can go and do that. Here you might have a extra information. An example template is classic. So you might say complete, perfect. Great little activity there. Now you might have that information to hand. So we can click on the attachment, and then we can put you can either upload the file into Skore, you can add a document which we touch on later, or you can put a link, which is really common. So again, we've got an external library here. So I don't know if anyone's using external links. You don't have to use it, but we could say here we've got a template, email template for customer. Perfect. You put your URL in there because it's highly likely to be part of a document management system that you have, and you've got that. You have to actually put that in there. Again, it's quite simple stuff, but it's all part of the building blocks of what we're trying to do in terms of accurate capture and agree the process. So again, you can actually put that, if you've got that information in here, link it to your process in a way. Analysis. Let's click down into analysis. So what we're trying to achieve here. So I've made it a very simplified version of, we're trying to enrich the process with information that helps us answer pertinent questions. Well, that's quite generic. Hopefully that rings true to people. So what could we do? Typical kind of bits of information here are about opportunities for improvement or automation, much the same. You might want to put risk and controls. How long did the process take? How much did it cost, and who is responsible? So we've got that kind of information. So process we've picked out here before. Opportunities and improvement, classic one. If I click on the attachment icon here, now you could put it in a text. Yeah, I could add in what the opportunities of improvement in here, but there's a better way. Yeah, and I've urged you to, if you're not using custom field, to have a play around with them at least. There's some real good benefits to doing that. But yeah, so let's conclude custom field. So look, I've got an improvement opportunity custom field already here. I can create it new if it's not already in your workspace. But what this gives me is two fields, well, three if you include the title of improvement opportunity, where we can start to look in here. So I can say I've got a technical one here. So we're saying actually they're using Excel. Actually, let's replace that with an app, or also a web page or whatever it might be. Yeah. So we could say we could remove the Excel, a bit more information in there, but you'd get the idea. The benefits of that is that it puts that in context of that process, of that activity. And then you can imagine scattering this across all your processes, the reporting then becomes very powerful. I'm not going to go straight into that at the moment, but what custom fields give you over just putting it in a text attachment, it gives you that reporting ability. Yeah, so I can say, show me all the improvement opportunities we've got against the Excel system or the line manager or the high priority ones, or however you show me all the technical ones. Yeah, so really, really interesting way of structuring that extra information against your processes, which makes the analysis a lot easier. So how long a process takes, if I click on the attachments, we've got quantify. I said this was a big topic. We're not going to deep dive in quantify. That is its own drop-in. But basically what it lets you do is put the time against the processes, and any unit costs that you might have against a process. You'll do that against your end-to-end flow. You'll put a cost against your resources, your roles, and then that will spit out how long a process takes, how much does it cost you for certain volumes, and you can play around with those numbers. Again, back to that first slide I showed, with the process in the middle. This is putting that quantification information against your process. Really, really powerful. Who's responsible? Obviously, got the roles against the activities in here. But you look at this one here, recover company assets. We've got two roles against this. Really common to start using something like RACI, which you can see here. So you can start to put the R's against it and the A's and the like. And then when you come back down, you can start to do that. Okay, so it's another layer. You might do that in your process mapping. You might do it afterwards. You might do it in a follow-up session. But again, it's putting that other layer of information against processes to enrich them. They're really the features. Yep, it's really the custom fields are really, really powerful. They do move into what we call forms, but I think we've got drop-ins on forms, which we can probably refer you to. But basically, it's one of these. Yeah, let's say I've got a risk, I've got a control, and you can structure that information in a lot more detail against the activities, and you get the reporting. We've mapped our process. We've done some analysis. We've improved it. We've got to a stage where we want to roll it out to people. Excellent. So if we go to the deployment phase, again, what are we trying to achieve? Yeah, so we're trying to provide an end user, define end user. We're trying an end user with all the information they need to successfully perform their job. Adam said work instructions. I said how-to documentations or SOPs, which we're saying is standard operating procedures here. Work instructions, again, is another term for that. Really, really common for people to process map to a certain level, and then say, actually, look, how do we obtain leaving package details? We might not need to go and drill down into the detail. So what we can do here, we can attach create an attachment. You pick and choose. It depends where you're storing your work instructions, your SOPs. If they're in another document management system, which they are quite often, then you'll be using a URL. So every document management system will provide a URL which you can use. So you add it once, and then then the other system will manage those up. You'll notice here we've got document. So there's another feature in Skore, relatively new feature this year, where you can create documents in Skore. Right, I'm going to come back to that in the advanced just to touch on it again, because again we've got drop-in sessions that will deep dive into documents and the like. But we are seeing more and more customers starting to co-locate that content, because it's all around process, and they'll use Skore as that single place for that how-to guide, to be able to go and do that. And you also see, we've got Workday, we've got low code app, great, we've improved that process, here we've taken Excel off and we've put low code app. Sounds again a lot of this is quite simple, but it's really, really powerful that when someone's stepping through this process, clicking attachment and putting a link here, yeah, to say, yeah, leave a form, put the URL in here. Not sure if that's going to work. Are you going to check it? Yeah, leave a form, and then that will open it up. So I'm coming to my process. I've got that information in here. Now you might have some other, you might have a work instruction, you might have a URL, you might have a little video, which is what I'm coming on to next. So you can see here, conduct interview, exit interview. Brilliant. That's a learning point, isn't it? Yeah. So actually, you might have a video in on here. So how you create a video, you embed, to basically embed content. So if I click on embed content, you can choose your option here. So there's a few different options in here. YouTube being one of them, Vimeo is another one, where you can add it in there and it will pop out. It will show you that video. Google Maps again is another one. And if you've got other systems, iframe is another way of displaying content from another system, if the other system allows you to. So again, you can get quite creative. Yeah. So I've seen BI tools being used. So actually, I want to be able to know what the stats are using something like that, an iframe in Skore, lets you join those two worlds up, if it's useful to those end users. So yeah, so it really is about whatever's going to be useful, and it will come down to your process, come down to what your people need, but just put it in there. Yeah, if it's a guide, if they've got to make a decision, maybe add the criteria, in there, or the exceptions, or I've seen people on compliance process, health and safety processes, put in photos of people in high vis gear and health and safety to really show where you got a sticker on a package, put a photo in there, clearly laying out where they're going to have to stick that. Not everything has to be a process, but it will soon become part of your process if you enrich it that way. Okay, brilliant. So yes, we mapped it, we've analysed it, we've deployed it out to people. So you'll recognise this conduct exit interview from our previous screen. So pop up. So what you can do on your attachment panel is, by default, it comes in from the side, as most things do in Skore. If you're providing training, how-to guides to people, often you want that to pop up in the middle of the screen, so to remain focused. So the handy little feature around here, I've opened up the attachment panel, come down to additional settings, and I can say open as pop-up. Okay, so if I click the X to save that, next time I open up that attachment, it will come up into the center of the screen. Yeah, this is a small video, so that's why it's small, but you can play it from here. So it's getting people to focus on that step. It's not showing them everything else. So that's quite a good tool. Some people love that and will use it all the time. Others only when needed to. And you can still access all the other information that you've got. So if you do have links, documents, you can still get to them. I can close that. Forms visibility, you had a little sneak peek earlier. So I've created a custom field. It's called risk, and it's called grouping. Now imagine that across a process, you might want to see, I want to see what activities have risks and what don't. And I don't want to have to go into each one. So you can start to show some of this extra information by clicking on the forms visibility. So I can come in here and I can say, right, I know it's the risk one, which is, and it will highlight it in against the process. And you can do that for a few things. You're skipping along there, but you can even do that for files, images, embedded content. In fact, I've never done that before. There you go, brilliant. Look at that. How cool is that? Yeah, so you can kind of make that information visible on the canvas. Don't overdo it. You don't want to overwhelm people, but it's really useful to pop out that information. The last couple of points here. On using documents in Skore, have they played around that functionality? No, it's relatively new, and it's that use case of why do I have to leave Skore? This is, I want to put my work instructions in, I want to put my SOPs, or it might be whatever content in here. Can I not just create it in Skore? And that's really what we answered there. So, but when you click on new, you can say new document. Yeah, so I can say I've got a new document. You can get rid of how to or otherwise, but you can say, right, how to, hit save, and then we're in. So I can click to edit mode. And you can go and, it sounds painfully simple, but you can go and create a document. Yeah, so I can go, how do I conduct an interview? You've got all your kind of tables and formatting and the like that you would expect here. And you can link to it. You can do a lot of functionality you can on a process, but in a document. Yeah, and it has its own life cycle, has its own ownership. as much in the same way as processes do. So I can now go back to my attachment, my process. I can say, oh, I want to attach a document, go to the media picker, the document picker, how to conduct an exit interview, confirm that, and away we go. So I've now got that document. And what I've seen people doing very much in the same way as we've just done in the form rules there, form visibility rules, you can say, right, actually, I want to show when a document is available. But you can actually have it available in here, so again, you don't have to click into the activity to be able to do that. The pretty cool thing around this as well is that once you've started to hook up a document to your processes, obviously we know that. Actually, I need to reload again the page, but it will start to show you all the different places where that process is that document is attached in your processes. Pretty sweet. Yeah, so I haven't saved this process, that's why it's not available here. So it's quite a nice way of just keeping it all in the one place and then linking it up together. Yeah, we're in for the last point again, which again is just maybe a reminder on features, but it's actually quite pertinent. If I click on here, attachment, I can link off to any process in the process repository in Skore. So again, as much in the same way, open a process picker, and away we go. Now, I don't see people using the functionality this way that often. What I do see is people trying to link it up in a process. So if I had the exit interview process documented elsewhere, really common for people to say, right, I want to create a link from this box, and the actual text. So I can click on here and then we open up this. Yeah, so I can say, I haven't got an exit interview process, but what have I got? Expenses. Yeah, I can click onto the process. I can click off into any objects by filtering down into any here. I can create it in a new tab. Brilliant. Yeah, insert the link and away we go. Yeah, so process links. Well, that's not attaching information as such to processes. It's a really useful way of pointing people to the right place in your repository when they need it. Appreciate I've showed you a lot of functionality, some kind of high level, some's quite simple, maybe a little bit more advanced in other places. That's all from me today. As you know, our doors are always open. If you've got any questions, struggling with anything, do reach out. More than happy to help. If you're struggling with a use case or working out how to do it, we've probably done it many times before. So do reach out. We love to talk about anything process related. So we'll hopefully see you all on a future drop-in session.